Bada bing, bada boo.
Every day in the courtroom, there's about this morning 15-minute window where you really just get to observe people. The court is not in session. The judge is not on the bench. The jurors are not in the room. The press pews are filled. We're all patiently waiting. We've got our little notebooks. The public pews are getting filled, and all the attorneys will walk in. And they'll walk in through like the middle aisle. So you watch the prosecutors walk in, you watch the defense attorneys walk in, and you can kind of get a gauge of who is extra stressed that day, or like what's the dynamic. And this morning, there is a situation with a banana gun in the courtroom. Mark Garagos.
A banana gun,
a fructose weapon. Okay, Mark Garagos, this is Tenny's father. This is not Mark Agnifilo. He is not one of the lead counsel. He's Tenny's father. He's also a celebrity attorney. This is the man who called the prosecution team a six-pack of white women, that Mark Garagos. He walks in holding a banana, and like curiously, he's not holding it like someone would regularly hold a banana. He's holding it like a weapon. Like it's like flung to the side like a barrel of a gun, and he's holding it by the edge, and he's kind of like holding it in front of him, again, like a fructose weapon. I genuinely don't know why he's holding it like that. Like a federal weapon with the serial number scratched off.
Is he like feeling playful or something?
I think so, and he wants to give it to his daughter Tenny. So he's walking towards the gate. There's like this wooden gate that separates all the pews from what some people call like the bullpen. That's where the attorneys are, that's where the jurors are, that's where the bench is. That's like where the invisible force field is. Okay, he walks towards the gate. He's not gonna go through the gate, but Officer Riz, he's standing right next to him just supervising. And like everyone in the press pews is always already giggle-gaggling because when you put Mark Garagos and Officer Riz together, it's like slightly the only moments of comedy throughout a very serious day. Because I swear to you, Officer Riz does not care that this man is Mark Garagos. Like he literally does not care who anybody is unless it's the judge and the jurors. So he's standing, arms on his hips, supervising Mark Garagos, trying to do a relay race with this banana. They walk to the front, Tenny's not even there. So now he's just like holding this fructose weapon, and Officer Riz is side-eyeing him, and so then they spot Tenny on the side. So she's like where the pews are, and she's sitting off to the side. She's deep in her binder. She's doing the cross-examination of Jane Doe, and she's preparing. And he walks up to her, hands her the banana gun, and she won't even look at her dad. She won't even take the banana gun, and she's like, just like put it over there. Like that's what it sounds like she's saying. Because it does not matter if you're a celebrity attorney. It does not matter how rich you are. Your kids will always be your biggest ops. So Mark Garagos is rejected. He's shut down by his own offspring. He walks back to the front gate and then hands it to Mark Agnifilo without any explanation. And then he and Officer Riz walks away. And then all the press pews, we just see Mark Agnifilo standing there confused, holding a banana. And he's just like staring off into the distance, like so confused. And we can't even explain to him what we saw because it's like an invisible force field. Now, gearing up for the cross-examination of Jane, the entire courtroom energy is slowly shifting. Like this banana situation was the only lighter moment to this entire trial day. Everyone is waiting for the jurors to walk in. The judge says, "All rise," but it's just his intern that walks in. Like this is how everybody seems very pent up. Like we're all like standing on alert, and he says, "Oh, please be seated. This is actually my intern's very first day, so it's nice for everybody to stand up." So the judge thought the jurors were coming in, so he said, "All rise," because everyone needs to stand for the jurors. So we stand when the judge walks in and walks out, and then he'll be like, "Please be seated." And then we all have to rise when the jurors walk in and walk out. He thought the jurors were walking in because the door opened, and then like we look and we're like, "That's not a juror," and it's literally just his intern like standing there like this. And then the judge is like, "This is actually my intern's very first day, so it's nice for everyone to stand up for him." And so everybody giggles, but again, it's like not really giggling. And I think this made me feel like it's normal to laugh in uncomfortable positions because I've always been very insecure. Like when I feel uncomfortable, I start laughing. Everyone in this courtroom constantly laughs when nothing is funny because it's just so much tension. So you're just like, okay, like let me find some lightness. Now, the only person that is never tense is Maureen Comey. She walks in every day like she's walking into Panera Bread to pick up a bagel.
The lead prosecutor.
Yeah. She's walking in like she's here to pick up her coffee order. Like, I've never seen this woman stressed. I mean, it makes sense. Her father was the former FBI director, but it feels like this is her vacation from life. Tenny's at the lectern. She does not look as calm. She has a giant Post-it on the lectern monitor that reads Jane. Likely so she doesn't mess up and use her real name. Considering they've actually met before. So Jane is a familiar face. Remember, Jane has met with Sean Combs' defense attorneys up until even April of this year, just a month before the trial kicked off.
Okay, yeah. In what context again? Sorry.
We don't really know the context because it's privileged information.
Okay.
But it was pertaining to the case.
Yeah.
Now, which speaking of familiar faces, this happened more recently, but Sunday was Father's Day, and all the Combs kids are like posting very intense Father's Day posts on Sunday about their like undying love for their father, which is understandable. It's Father's Day. But then on Monday, not a single one of them show up. I think a lot of the press pews were a little bit confused because, you know, we're all like watching everyone on Instagram. So it's just a little weird, you know, and I'm sure they have schedules, but this seems like the most important schedule going on. Their attendance has been splotchy. There have been whispers in the courtroom that at times the defendant will turn around and seemingly be very upset that the family pews are lessening in attendance. And then usually when he shows a moment of what we perceive to be upsetness with the empty pews, the next day the pews will be packed. But there is one day where Christian Combs does show up, and he's wearing a Free Sean Combs shirt. He did wear this mesh shirt on top to kind of make the shirt blurrier, but it's still pretty obvious what he's wearing. I mean, so much so that the defendant is turning around all smiles, pointing at Christian's shirt, and he looks giddy, and everyone else is confused because this is not allowed. Like, you cannot be wearing shirts like this.
Why is it not allowed?
It's not... Like, you can't make these types of statements in a courtroom. So you can't really wear, like, politically promotional t-shirts, especially if you're in the family pews. I think maybe it could be okay if you were in the public pews, but I did hear that there was, like, a commotion after people found out about that shirt that he was wearing. That was a thing that was happening. But everyone's still trying to focus on Jane Doe's testimony. And remember how I said, yes, I see some jurors smirking. Yes, I see them kind of falling asleep, being less engaged in this testimony. I still thought at the end of the day, maybe it's like me. Because I will say, there is a split in the courtroom. When I'm in the courtroom and when I watch these cross-examinations in person, there's like an energy shift in there. And I analyze the jurors' faces every single day. I'm staring at them. They're literally in my line of sight. I see all of this and I'm taking it in and I start feeling like, uh-oh. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the defense attorneys are just so damn good at their jobs that they're able to like control the emotions in the courtroom to make you feel like all the points that they're making are so valid. But sometimes I walk out of there thinking, wow, they made so many points. And then I come home, I read the transcript, I go over my notes, I let the emotions soak in, and I'm like, that point didn't really make sense. Like, that point was not really a point. So I thought in my head, okay, perhaps the jurors, the same thing's happening to them. First of all, I don't know why they're smirking. They could be smirking about something unrelated. But perhaps they're smirking, and then they go home, sit on the information, and then they realize, maybe that wasn't a point. I don't know. Maybe they realize it was a point. However, this is where I started getting kind of nervous. The public pews, sometimes in the hallways, I try to eavesdrop. Because I'm like trying to see how people feel about the case and like feel about the day's testimony. The press pews, these are like really crazy reporters. A lot of them, they're very good at not talking about how they feel about the case. Like, everyone's just trying to keep it professional, keep it neutral in the courthouse. However, recently, there was a Homeland Security agent inside of the courtroom, which we've seen a few of them testify, but this one happened to be sitting right in front of us during Jane's testimony, during Jane's entire testimony. And she's been having moments where it just seems like she seems a little emotionally volatile. Like, there are a few things that have happened where it just seems like she seems tense, like very stressed out, and that is completely understandable, right? Because Homeland Security, they were the ones in charge of this investigation. So you know how sometimes the FBI is involved in these criminal investigations? Homeland Security is the one in charge of this one. And like, just to give you an idea, because I don't think people talk about Homeland Security as often, they run ICE. Like, this is a huge government entity. So she's sitting there. She seems very volatile. She seems like emotionally perturbed. And then one of the senior reporters turns to us and says, you know who she is, right? She's a Homeland Security agent. And we're like, yeah, she seems a little like on edge these days. And he says, but you know why, right? Because she thinks the entire case is falling apart. And so she's freaking out.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, what? What does that mean? What do you mean the entire case is falling apart? So I went through all of Jane's cross-examination all over again, just so if I could pinpoint all the parts where this case could potentially fall apart.
Respect buat mama yang gak kelihatan capek saat kita rewel.
Antangin Junior, khasiat jahe, meniran, madu, bantu redakan masuk angin, dan jaga daya tahan tubuh. Antangin Junior,
Wes bablas angine.
We would like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the New York Immigration Coalition. They are an umbrella policy and advocacy organization that represents over 200 immigrant and refugee rights groups throughout New York. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. Some of the quotes and statements have been shortened, combined, and or condensed for brevity. Today's episodes also has a few disclaimers regarding mentions of DV, physical, essay, and trafficking. Please take care of yourself if you need to. Also, lots of drug abuse and drug usage. Those are the disclaimers. You guys know the drill. Please take it easy if it's too rough. At the time of the filming of this episode, Diddy is innocent until proven guilty, and all the charges that he's been indicted on are still just alleged. Any and all observations have been recorded by me or my researchers in real time inside the courtroom. However, any speculations, comments, or opinions about any observable reactions that we have witnessed in the courtroom, those are just our interpretations. We honestly don't know what anyone is thinking. I don't think any single one of us are mind readers. So I'm just telling you this was the feeling and the energy that I got, but it might not even be accurate. It might not even be rooted in reality. So with that being said, let's get started. When Jane walks back into the courtroom, it is now time for the cross-examination to begin. And it's kind of interesting because Tenny is going to be doing the cross-examination. Jane and Tenny, they are smiling warmly at each other, which is confusing everybody because, again, we know that Jane and Tenny met at least in April of this year, which was 2 months ago, 1 month before the trial kicked off. So we don't know how close they are. We don't know what their dynamic is going to be. And during the direct, it did seem like Tenny was very stressed. There would be times where it seems like she wanted to object to Comey's line of questioning. So if you're doing the cross-examination, you're the one objecting to the direct testimony, like the questions where you don't think that they should be asking these questions. But Tenny keeps glancing at Mark Agnifilo to get a sign on whether she should or should not object. At one point, it seemed like Mark Agnifilo gave her the signal to object, but it seemed like a very tense situation. And all of that goes away rather quickly because eventually she just starts throwing objection to every question that Maureen Comey is asking. Maureen Comey is breathing and Tenny Garagos is objecting. Now, Sean Combs always has a lot more confidence when it's the cross-examination days. It feels like maybe it's their time to take control, which that's understandable. He's typically bolder in his mannerisms. I mean, nobody has any clue like how this dynamic is about to play out. And it begins. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Ms. Garagos. As Ms. Comey said, we've met before, right? Yes. Tenny clarifies that Combs is paying for Jane's attorney because he is, and that came out in the direct testimony. But Jane clarifies that Sean Combs has never attempted to interfere with representation. But it's still so strange because technically Jane is testifying against Combs and he's paying for her attorney. How can there not be a conflict of interest?
Yeah.
The less she says about him in a negative light, the better for him, and he's paying the attorney. Now, I'm not saying that the attorney is doing anything incorrectly. It just seems like a very tricky situation where you would have to follow lots of different red tapes. I think in the perfect professional setting, it can be done, but it just seems weird. More interesting is when Tenny asks Jane on the stand, and you're testifying here at this trial against Mr. Combs, despite him paying for your attorney, right? Jane responds, I'm testifying against him? Jane looks genuinely confused. Then the jurors look genuinely confused, and they're glancing between Tenny and Jane because none of this is making sense anymore. I think that she just thought that she was testifying.
Wow.
Yeah, and Jane states that she's really only here because she's been subpoenaed by the government and she has an immunity plea in place. So right off the bat, Tenny clarifies a few things. Jane tells her that she has not spoken to Sean Combs since his arrest in 2024, so that was 8 months ago. And the defense, they start trying to establish just how in love Jane was with Combs. They talk about his last album and if Jane joined him in the studio, with Tenny asking, did you like seeing him in that environment? I liked seeing him in any environment. And I think you testified yesterday that you felt what you really loved and craved about these nights were the closeness that you and him had after the entertainer left, right? Any time with him, I loved. So Tenny starts asking questions such as, can you please tell me? I mean, I know you talked about a little bit about this on Direct, but you said that you fell in love with him because he was this larger than life, charismatic personality. Can you explain what that is? Why did you feel like he was this larger than life, charismatic personality? Combs is moving in his chair so that he can see Jane better. He's like sitting in his Shark Tank position, tapping his fingers against his thighs. It appears to an outsider that clearly has no idea what he's thinking, but it just looks like he's ready to hear the compliments roll in. Like, that is the feeling that I get from that action. Jane responds, I was fascinated by him. He was just something unique and different. Like, I had never met anybody with such a big personality and very big energy and very motivating, encouraging, and just larger than life. He wasn't afraid to have his voice heard, and it was attractive. It feels like, right off the bat, a good chunk of the cross-examination was for the defense to try and establish that Jane is someone who was lovesick for Sean Combs, was willing to do whatever to stay with him. And they start working overtime to create a very specific image of Jane, to leave jurors with the impression that Jane is a very specific, certain type of person, which is an influencer. Now, this is the part where I'm like, this is not gonna be good, in the sense that whenever I talk to people out and about, it could be in a personal, professional setting, a casual setting, it doesn't matter. If people ask me what I do, I come up with 25 words to avoid the word influencer. I will say 5 sentences of rambling about how I make videos for the internet before I say the word influencer, because every time I've ever said, oh, I'm like an influencer, people always have slightly negative, visible reactions on their face.
Yeah.
There is such a strong connotation associated with that word. I mean, people see influencers as vain, vapid, brainless, brand-obsessed troublemakers on the internet. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. It's up for people to decide. And it just feels like Tenny's leaning into that. When asking about hotel night outfits, Jane says the high heels that Sean Combs would make her wear were like 6-7 inches tall. Tenny asks her, but you're somebody who regularly wears high heels in your daily life, right? Which, if she's not trying to lean into that kind of image for Jane, I don't know why she's asking about her heels. Like, she's not a foot doctor. Is she Sir Christian Louboutin? Jane responds, these are a particular kind of high heels, so I would say I would occasionally wear these types of heels, but in real life, I would wear things that are about 3 to 4 inches in real life. Okay, but so you're not accustomed to wearing high heels, maybe not these ones, but in your real life, you're accustomed to wearing these high heels outside of the hotel rooms, right? Yes. Including 4-inch ones? Yes. Maybe not 5 to 7-inch ones. Yes. Later, the jurors see a photo of Jane and Combs in the studio where Jane is wearing tall heels. I know that you talked about the 5 to 7-inch heels that you would wear during hotel nights. This is not it, right? No, these are not it. These are more of like your kind of everyday heels, right? Yes. One of the jurors makes a woo facial expression.
Why?
Like, because they're tall. Because nobody really wears heels every day.
Right.
I mean, it's like a very small group of people that wear heels every day, right? So she makes like a woo, like, woo, those are tall. That's what it seemed like. All I observed was her making the woo, like that kind of mouth expression. Now, I don't think that, I mean, that makes me feel like Tenny's not taking shots in the dark. Like, this might be working for some jurors. It just makes her feel like a different, not as relatable person, perhaps. So the ones that you would wear on a normal day-to-day basis are these heels, right? Yes. Side note, at this point, the sons in the family pews, this is a day that they are here, they're sharing chapstick, and I got very distracted because they're like sharing a tub of lip balm, and Justin Combs likes to apply it with his pinky finger, and then Quincy likes to dip his knuckle into it and then apply it using his entire index finger knuckle. And it's just very interesting that something so serious is happening and they're all just like pouty face applying chapstick. Not that anything's wrong with it, but it's just like, I'm telling you, the court energy, every pew is like a different energy. It just feels like 25 different mixes of things going on. Then out of nowhere, when talking about Jane moving from the East Coast to LA to be with Combs, Tenny is asking, and you were on the East Coast in 2020 because you wanted your child to be closer to the child's father, right? Yes. And during that time you were on the East Coast, did your child's father see your child at all? Jane looks confused. She looks agitated. And she literally responds, what does that have to do with this whole thing? Why did you move to LA? I moved to Los Angeles because the purpose of living on the East Coast wasn't being fulfilled, so we moved. And you've previously told the government that you've always gravitated towards providers. Do you remember telling them that? Yes. Can you explain that? Yes, I do find men who are successful attractive. As a woman, my ideal partner is a protector and a provider.
Enakan subats dulu pakai yogurt.
Combs is again tapping Mark to scooch to the right. Mark then tells Alexandra Shapiro, who's sitting on the right of him in Tenny's old spot, to scooch to the right. So Alexandra Shapiro scooches, Mark scooches, Combs scooches, and they're all scooching in their chair, presumably so that Combs can get a better look at Jane. Tenny brings up the house that Jane lives in, the one that costs $10,000 a month, and nobody in the courtroom is allowed to forget about it. Tenny shows the jurors messages from Jane texting Combs about the house before moving in, trying to get him to agree to it. And she explains that she got approved and they need first and last month's rent and 2 months of rent for security deposit, totaling about $40,000. Nobody in the defense wants us to forget that he's paying $10,000 a month for her rent and $40,000 for moving in fees. It will forever be ingrained in every brain, just etched in there with Sharpie. So then they go down the list of gifts. It's like tax season. Tenny starts asking Jane, then how many shoes did you get? I think it was like 1 pair of shoes, 1 bag. What was the bag? Bottega. And you were happy with those gifts, right? Yes. Tenny brings up a text message where perhaps Jane was not happy with those gifts. It's a text thread where Jane texts Combs about how he treats her versus how he treats his other girlfriends. Now, one in particular is really stressing Jane out. So she texts Combs, I see what I'm turning into in your eyes while homegirl is literally ran through and fucks your friends behind your back. And did you get her a fucking Chanel bag on top of that? LOL, crazy. I don't like how you're treating me and what I'm seeing. I need a breather and a break from you. This doesn't feel good at all. Your true intentions with me are in plain sight. Tenny lets the text message just sit in the air. And then she asks, and then you say, did you get her a fucking Chanel bag on top of that? LOL, crazy? Yes, my misdirected anger towards the women when my anger is truly for him and how mistreated I felt in the relationship. And you are mistreated because this other person got a Chanel bag. Why are you saying Chanel bag? I'm being mistreated because the pressure that my partner was putting on me was for me to have sex with strangers, and when he leaves, he goes and spends quality time and shopping and dining, etc., with the others. Did this person post a Chanel bag on their Instagram stories? Yes. And you didn't get the Chanel bag. This other person was getting a Chanel bag, right? No, I only got trauma. You got a Van Cleef necklace, right? There was that. And you got a Bottega bag, right? After 3.5 years, I really don't think I garnered much from this relationship. What is a Bottega bag? And this is when all that friendly smiling disappears because Jane snaps at Tenny's question. What is a Bottega bag? I'm sure you have one. And there is like a moment of like, oh, in the gallery, like almost involuntarily, everyone is like, oh, we don't even know what to say because this was so sudden. I mean, it was amping up. It was getting intense, but for her to be like, I'm sure you have one, because everyone in the press pews knows that Tenny is considered a Nepo baby too. Mm-hmm. And like she does wear like Chanel shoes every day to court. I don't know about every day, but often, and she's very dressed, put together. It seems like she probably does have a Bottega bag or 20. A few jurors have their eyebrows raised. Almost all of them are staring between Tenny and Jane, whipping their heads back and forth. Like, is this really happening? Like, are we about to do this right now? And Tenny's voice is calm, but she seems agitated. I actually don't. What is a Bottega bag? It's a high-end luxury purse for women. And how much do Bottega bags run? How much does my body cost? Again, the whole gallery is either looking down with their eyebrows all the way raised up or just staring bug-eyed at the front. And the judge finally has to come in. Father Arun is like, Jane, I'm gonna ask you to just respond to Ms. Garagos' questions and your lawyer can follow up. I'm asking roughly how much a Bottega bag costs. Anywhere between $1,500 to $5,000. Okay, and a Chanel bag? How much does a Chanel bag cost? I don't know. Tenny gets her to read messages almost immediately after. And then at the bottom you say, bitches super ran through and f***s your friends. You think I care about this, right? Right. And all he responds is, have a blessed day, right? Yes. Can we take a break? It is such a sudden break request from Jane when previously during the direct testimony, she has never needed a break. So a lot of people just felt like this is getting it almost felt personal, this back and forth between Tenny and Jane. It just seemed like a lot. So there's a quick break, and during that, Combs turns around to see Quincy in the pews. Wow. And then
Quincy mouths wow or Combs?
Combs mouths wow at Quincy. I don't know why. And then he puts his hand over his heart and then blows a kiss and then puts both arms across his chest.
Like the Black Panther.
Yeah, I guess if I tried to look up if it means anything else. It has become like a cultural icon symbol, but it is most famously known as of right now in today's context as the Wakanda Forever symbol. And so it was just like a weird series of wow, hand over his heart, blow a kiss. It was just like a lot happening. After the break, Jane comes back and apologizes to Tenny, and they dive right back into it. Tenny brings up how on a Paris trip with a bunch of Jane's girlfriends, she tells her friends, quote, now I just need a Saudi prince, right? Which I have seen comments about Jane's testimony online and about these types of parts. And people are just saying, God forbid a girl has a personality. It's the same thing with Cassie saying oh, well, who am I gonna date since Jay-Z's already taken? Is it the nicest thing to say? No, but God forbid someone says something snarky once in a while. Does that mean that their entire personality is snarky and they're manipulative? It's crazy because oftentimes, very bad men will be able to say some really heinous things and it will be considered an isolated event. But when one girl says one slightly snarky thing, it becomes her whole personality. This is who she is. These are her true colors.
Exactly.
It's so bizarre. And also my researcher saw this journalist who was commenting this after Jane's first testimony, for the video, and they write, I also believe it's a joke for those in the gallery and the jury pool to pretend that they're shocked and don't know what a cuck is. This fake Puritan nonsense is an absolute joke. Sex work draws a revenue of over $1 billion each year in the US alone. People put on a front regarding sexual activity to fit archaic social norms. The same can be said for OnlyFans. If men were making millions on OnlyFans, they would be called entrepreneurs and nobody would scoff in the gallery or the jury pool. It's honestly an absolute joke that society perpetuates this stigma and would scoff at someone who went through something like this from an admitted abuser like Combs. Jane's testimony is exactly what you expect from someone coerced into a situation. Unfortunately, education is so poor regarding this kind of abuse due to it mainly affecting women, so it's likely some members of the jury don't care due to Combs having money, and they believe that the women around him put up with it to receive gifts from him. And I think that is so accurate because the way people react to the mentions of Bottega bags, even the text message of Jane being upset that someone got a Chanel bag, the reaction is very it almost feels like so vain, couldn't be me. The cross-examination was one of the hardest things to sit throughout this trial. I mean, they have Jane sitting up on the stand reading explicit message after very explicit message after very explicit message, none of which can even be repeated on most platforms. They're just very explicit. I mean, these are text messages that I would probably delete off my phone just because I don't want my parent to randomly see it if they're on my phone, or it's a lot. And nothing's wrong with it, but I think when they're read out in court, it has a significant impact on the jurors, I imagine. Now, Jane is having to answer that she texted a tongue and water emoji to Combs. This is how specific they're getting with the nitty-gritty. And then the water, is that supposed to be a sexual emoji? Yes. Another emoji during a sexual text thread between Jane and Combs, Tenny asks, what does that emoji mean to you? Wild and crazy with the tongue out and eyes crossed. Can you explain the smirk emoji? The smirk emoji is kind of how do I say, is it flirtatious? I would say so, yes. Another text thread, Tenny asks, and then you respond, you send him several emojis, right? Yes. And what are the emojis indicative of? Flirtation, hard eyes, water. Tenny has Jane read another very explicit message about how she had never experienced such things in her life and how her body was reacting to it. Tenny asks her, what are those emojis next to the text message? Big puppy eyes and crying? Okay, is the crying upset crying or happy crying? What does that crying indicate? Crying so hard because it feels so good? Then another message from Jane to Combs. You light my fire. I feel alive with you, baby. You blow my mind. I'm satisfied. Outstanding. And that is how the defense is trying to prove their point to the jurors, that they are saying all of this was consensual. November 2023, Cassie's lawsuit goes viral, and Jane says that she's scrolling through her phone. There is no avoiding it. Not that she's trying to intentionally, but it's really just a matter of time before she sees it. It's on every headline, every Instagram story, everywhere. Jane is reading about Combs' relationship with Cassie. Now, by this point, Jane and Sean Combs have been dating for 3 years. She just remembers that throughout their relationship, randomly, Sean would tell her that Cassie was his greatest love, and sometimes he would get high and write Cassie love letters that I don't think that he would send. It's unclear. Now, Prosecutor Comey, previously in the direct, had asked Jane, how did you react to seeing news coverage and social media posts about Cassie's lawsuit? I almost fainted. In fact, I think I did, because there was 3 specific pages that was just a harrowing resemblance of what I was experiencing. But there were a few pages that Jane says it literally was like word for word. She even screenshot it. She said, because I was bewildered, I was in shock. Jane, how did you react to reading the 3 pages that you screenshotted from Cassie's lawsuit? I couldn't sleep. I was reading these pages. It felt like a nightmare. I felt so bad. I just had sympathy for this because I just reacted like, I can't believe I'm reading my own story. Jane says she starts venting to Sean. I'm just shocked. I was just in complete state of shock, just messaging him, just like, what is this? So 3 days after Cassie's lawsuit, she texts Sean Combs. I just woke up because I'm nauseous. I've been crying for 3 days and under stress from reading all of this. I keep having nightmares about forced nights and all the times I felt like I couldn't say no. I feel like I'm reading my own sexual trauma. It makes me sick how 3 pages, word for word, is exactly my experience and my anguish. Even 2 of my own birthdays, you had me perform so many countless toxic years together, even recently throwing up at a hotel in LA because I was finally sober and disgusted and felt so forced to perform back to back and just wanting to end it all. The sick part is you knew this was coming and you gaslit me and you made me feel crazy about the sex trauma I was developing, knowing you've been there before and this is just the sick thing that you do. I feel manipulated. This was never love between us. It's also clear that this was sexual exploitation that you feigned as love for your sick fetishes. Sean Combs responds to her, call me on this phone, important. So the government actually entered into evidence a recorded phone call that Jane didn't even know she was being recorded in. She didn't even know that somebody else was listening in on this phone call. You just hear Sean Combs apologizing while Jane is clearly emotional on the phone. She's upset. She's saying, just reading it, who's there for me when I close my eyes and I have these fucked up thoughts in my head? Meanwhile, Jane can hear through the phone Sean Combs taking notes on a notepad with a Sharpie. Like, Sharpie has a very distinct sound when you're using it, which is giving, let me just make sure she doesn't file a lawsuit either. But he's also the one asking her repeatedly if she's recording this call, which she's like, I'm not. But Combs is saying things like, you even brought me a videotape so we could look at what we did, talking about the hotel nights. Once again, trying to say, this is consensual while I'm recording you so that you can't file a lawsuit. And there's another part in the recording where Combs cryptically tells her, you know you ain't got to worry about anything else. Which to her, she took it as like, she didn't have to worry about rent or anything else. So from November of 2023 to when the lawsuit drops, that's when the lawsuit drops, to February of 2024, they're on a break. They kind of break up for about 4 months. Jane says that she was so traumatized, she even texted him something that a lot of people think that the jurors are going to really take this into account. She texts him, leave women alone who don't want to do these nights with you. Hire sex workers and stop emotionally harming women who love you. Combs responds in a way that is just very paranoid, texting, are you trying to set me up? This is crazy, fucking crazy. You're recording my calls?
What?
Meanwhile, one of the jurors has their eyebrows raised while taking notes because it's just a very, what is happening right now? And Jane even tells Maureen Comey she has no plans to sue Sean Combs even to this day. A month later, Combs is texting Jane, and this is so unhinged, but he's texting her, are you dating? Be honest. Hello? I want to know. No judgment. It's giving sketch artist, can you make me look less like a koala? I feel like there's a lot more grave things to be concerned about whilst everything's going on. Jane sends him an audio note saying that she's hurt, traumatized. She's clearly not planning on dating anybody anytime soon. She just wants to focus on her life. Meanwhile, Jane does in fact make a monetary demand against Sean Combs. There is a text message that Tenny puts into the cross-examination, and it reads, I feel sexually exploited, mentally damaged, and emotionally drained by you. I want my wasted 3 years of time reimbursed and given back to me in the monetary amount of $100,000 per year and 15 months left of our 2-year agreement of rent, $450K to move on from the resentment of feeling exploited, manipulated, heartbroken, drugged, and all the loss of potential income. Now, Jane clarifies, and she's trying to explain, the only reason I asked him for money is because all day he had been calling me, demanding me to give him a price. He's saying, like, give me a price so that we can get closure since we're breaking up. He even sends her a message, charge me for your resentment. I just need you to get over this. Just tell me what it is. I don't want any loose ends. Just charge me.
Wow. So she brought that up right then too.
Yeah, and Maureen Comey had even clarified previously, like, whose idea was it to talk money? And she's, Sean. That's why she sent that message demanding $450,000 because he's kept asking for a price. She sends that message and he responds, fuck you, don't ever text me again.
Wow.
And Jane is like, you made me lose out on everything. You're a liar, fuck you, I'm blocking you. Leave me alone, baby girl, you're a liar. Opportunist, fuck you, I'm calling the police. You're trying to make some shit up, I'm clear. Honestly, a lot of the jurors look disgusted by his text message. I mean, they just, like, a lot of them are scowling, like they're smelling something funky. Jane responds, you are the only opportunist here. You exploited the fuck out of me. You win. 3 years of being used by you. You had 3 years of fun with my body. I said you broke me. Our situation has never, ever been fair to me. You asked me what I needed to move on, and now you're upset. I said you were a full-time job. You consumed my life. I got nothing out of this for 3 years but demons and heartbreak. You exploited my love and made me think this was love so I could give you these fetish nights. He responds, leave me alone. I'm blocking this number and I'm calling the police. She says, you used me for your dick parties. He responds, God bless you. Oh. And I was too stupid. Leave me alone, con artist. You keep describing yourself. You cornered me into sucking and for you and letting strangers run trains on me. No one has ever treated me like this. You playing around. Do you want me to call the police? I'm asking out of respect for your family.
Wait, this is at what point again? This is
like during their breakup after Cassie's lawsuit.
Cassie's lawsuit came out. His house hasn't gotten raided yet.
No, so this would be around like January 2024. His house gets raided in like March of 2024.
Right.
The CNN hotel video comes out May of 2024. So we, like the public, we only know Cassie's lawsuit.
Yeah, and he's probably, besides the Cassie lawsuit, he's still chilling. He's living his same life still, right?
Yes, I don't know when he would have been made aware. I
feel like the raid would have just caught him off guard.
I think so, because I don't think the feds would be like, hey, so we're planning on raiding you soon.
We're going after you right now, right?
So he probably feels like he settled that lawsuit. I think it just seems like he's just worried about any other future lawsuits because he paid $20 million. So he's like, I don't want to pay another $20 million, is probably his train of thought. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he's just going off on Jane. And Jane is...
because the fact that he said, I'm going to call the cops, that is crazy.
Yeah, meanwhile, the cops are like, hi, we know who you are.
Yeah.
We're actually...
We're watching right now.
Yeah, we're listening to this photo. No, I'm just kidding. They're not, but you get what I'm saying. It's just so bizarre that he's threatening to call the cops.
Yeah.
Now, Jane is sobbing on the stand. A few of the jurors can't, like I said, they can't even look at her. It's just a very tumultuous moment. It's not like the saddest moment in the courtroom, but it's like what is happening? Like, Sean Combs' text messages don't even make sense. And she's very emotionally distraught about it. So it's like this very complicated mix of energy. Jane ends up texting him, nobody loves me. You called me and you asked me to charge you. You kept pressuring me all day, even said lawyers would be involved, insisting on this conversation on what I, quote, need to, quote, move on. When I did what you asked, you spew out all your evil on me, then ask who I'm seeing and if I'm dating over and over again. You threaten releasing my tapes and threaten to post them. You jab at all my wounds and not once have I called you anything out of your name. You are psychotic. Jane is asked how Combs responds and he said, I'm just gonna show your child's father these tapes. I have nothing to lose. The jurors at this point honestly look pretty melancholic. They just look down. Meanwhile, Combs looks a little bit agitated. He shakes his head no in like a short burst. But this entire relationship breakup ends in February of 2024. So 4 months after Cassie's lawsuit, all because Sean Combs has a dream. Sean Combs allegedly has a dream that he and Jane were on his private jet, and he texts her reporting this dream to her, and she responds, and that starts their relationship all over again. Jane says she responded because, quote, I missed him dearly. He starts using this as like a way to get into her life because Jane's birthday is in February. So he's saying, I had a dream about you. By the way, your birthday's coming up. What are you doing for your birthday? I want to spend time with you on your birthday. He says, say what you want to do on your birthday. I'm a little traumatized from my past birthdays and what they ultimately led to at the end of the night. I don't know. being honest. Because remember, the past 2 birthdays, the end of the night would always end up in a hotel night that she did not want. And she would express that she wanted it to just be her and Sean Combs. I just don't want to get my feelings hurt. I feel disrespected for no reason. He responds, shaking my head, didn't mean for the conversation to go there. I was just asking you what you were doing, and you asked me if I wanted to spend your birthday with you, LOL. Don't know the conversation to take this turn. You're confusing. No, you're right. I got flashbacks from the past and they took over for a second. It's okay. I just know me. It's just gonna actually make me feel worse, LOL. Right after you got Homegirl's birthday and then Valentine's Day, I don't even want to mix my thoughts and emotions and like intertwine with seeing all of that. It's always like I get less and you go do the big one. So basically she's saying, even if we don't do a hotel night, like it's just like, it's gonna be my birthday and then your other girlfriend's birthday, allegedly Young Miami, and then it's Valentine's Day and she's like, I just know you're gonna spend time with her anyway. I'm good. I appreciate you remembering my birthday though. Don't stress it. Well, if you want to change your mind and want to have a wholesome, beautiful birthday celebration, just let me know, love. I love you. I miss you. And then he responds again, I love you. I miss you. It was great seeing you in my dream last night. Stay happy. Love. But he also continues texting her. It's your birthday. You deserve to let me make you feel happy. Like the wording on that is honestly criminal. It's not you deserve to be happy. It's you deserve to let me make you happy. Like you deserve for me to put some effort and make you happy, which is like honestly pass go and go straight to jail. Just like the verbiage on that is insane. They have a phone call and suddenly Jane is on her way to spend time with him for her birthday. She's flying into Miami. Comey is asking her what happened. And Jane says that when she flies in, she just has like butterflies in her heart. Her heart is beating out of her chest. She's seeing Combs for the first time in a long time and they're in matching clothes. Everything about the way Jane speaks about Sean Combs on the stand. This is a girl in love. And she sounds really young for her age. And I can really only attribute that to maybe being so deeply in love because like she's very happy that they coincidentally matched in the color of clothing. Like it was a very unique, great color and she felt like it was fate. And like just the way that she described seeing him again. And he had this wonderful dinner set up and she says the whole dinner he's explaining to her how much he missed her and wants her to stay and how much he loves her. And then at the end, he passes her a pill, an ecstasy. One juror has his hands on his temple and he like briefly shakes his head no. Another one wipes their forehead because it just feels like we have seen this before and it never ends well.
Yeah.
At this point, I think I was just high and I was like, okay. Jane says she doesn't know why. She just says, at this point, I'm just so used to this being the outcome of whatever we're doing that I just accept it. So Don ends up coming over, an entertainer, and they end up having a hotel night again. After that, Jane and Combs are officially back together, and subsequently there are more hotel nights following, except that they weren't really at hotels anymore, more so at his private residence, because in March, the next month, his homes are raided. So now it seems like he's trying to fly under the radar. He's not going to hotels and doing all these crazy things. I mean, the whole internet is watching him. Everybody is. You walk into a hotel, the hotel employees are probably calling TMZ.
Yeah.
Come on now, right? So he's doing these hotel nights at his residences most of the time.
That's the one that they raid like 1,000 baby oil bottles and
yes.
The photos came out recently as well.
Yes, so it's actually insane how much baby oil and Astroglide he had in his mansion. And the baby oil in one cabinet, they're all lined up like it's a luxury high-end retail store featuring bottles of baby oil. There's baby oil everywhere. In his garage, he has like pallets. I wouldn't even call it, because remember Mark Agnifilo? He was all like, no, Americans just buy in bulk.
He has a big house, he buys in bulk. I think they have Costco's in every place where he has a home. Have you sat in a parking lot of a Costco and see what people walk out of there with?
And then I was like, I think that he believes it, right? Then I saw the picture of the Astroglide. You can't even buy stuff like that in bulk. It's like a shipping pallet is what it looks like. It's just like pallets of Astroglide.
Like you have to contact the manufacturer, like, hey,
yeah,
I'm opening a store and I need inventory.
Yeah, it's like,
it's crazy.
It's an operation. It doesn't make sense. This is not, I can't even think of anything a normal person would have. I think even that many pallets of coffee, water.
Or like toilet paper.
Even toilet paper would be weird. It's like, how many people do you have living in the house?
Yeah.
Nothing makes sense.
So you say like his home got raided and he moved the whole hotel night to the home that got raided?
Yeah, to Two-Star Island.
Two-Star Island.
Yes.
Wow.
Here is a dirty little secret that the insurance industry may want to keep under wraps. Insurance companies profit by holding onto your money for as long as possible. Morgan & Morgan fights hard against these corporations to fight to make sure you get every dollar that you deserve. When in court, the insurance companies, they want jurors to think the at-fault driver is the one paying the verdict amount. Meanwhile, it's usually the insurance companies who are covering the cost. When Morgan & Morgan takes on a case, they are almost always going after the big insurance companies and not the individuals at fault. A recent client in Pennsylvania just received $29 million. The insurer's best offer was $500,000. I mean, there's a reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury firm. Hiring the wrong firm can be disastrous. I mean, hiring the right firm could substantially increase your settlement. With Morgan & Morgan, it's easy to get started, and their fee is free unless they win. Just click the link in the description below or visit forthepeople.com/rotten. That's forthepeople.com/rotten, or click the link in the description below. This is a paid advertisement. Taking your business to the next level is a dream lots of us share, but too often kind of just hold ourselves back thinking like, what if I don't have the skills? What if I don't know how to do this? What if I can't do it alone? And that's exactly where we were when I decided to turn those what ifs into, you know what, why not? Let's try it and let's give Shopify a try. My family and I were able to launch our own small business selling limited edition artwork at Grandpa Mingo's art studio because honestly, we had Shopify. There would have been no other way. They are an all-in-one commerce platform to start and run and grow a business. Shopify has your back with gorgeous, ready-to-go templates, AI tools built specifically for commerce, and the world's highest converting customizable one-click checkout that also powers 10% of US e-commerce. If you've been sitting on a business idea or wanting to take your side hustle to the next step, stop overthinking it. Shopify makes it so much easier than you think. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/rotten. Go to shopify.com/rotten. Shopify.com/rotten. Now, Combs is in his chair. He's rolling his neck. Jane explains that they never really went out much at all anymore after the home raids, and it's probably best, so they would just stay home. Now, the defense uses this entire thing against Jane, making it seem like, and almost drawing inferences that, isn't it weird that Jane still went back to Combs after Cassie's lawsuit went public? They almost encourage her to talk more about how much better her relationship with Combs got after Cassie's lawsuit. Jane tells Tenny that after Cassie's lawsuit, when Jane and Combs finally reconnect, she felt so much more love from him, that he was positively changing, being more apologetic. He was listening better, spending more time at home. He wasn't on the go all the time, and it really meant a lot to Jane. Tenny asks, and would you say that there was less chaos in the house, around post-Cassie lawsuit? Yes. Less people around, right? Yes. Less people were asking stuff from him, you felt? Yes. Okay, and so you would be able to talk to him, right? Yes. I will say a few in the courtroom later did not have good feelings about this line of questioning. I guess the inference was inferred and people were picking up on it. I don't know if I personally believe it, but the speed of the questions, the way that they were formatted, it made it seem like Jane was almost grateful for Cassie's lawsuit. It made it seem like the world turned on Sean Combs, so she had more time with Sean Combs, and that made her happy. I don't personally think this is true. I think it was the way the questioning happened. Because two things can be true at once. Because she does seem very impacted by Cassie's lawsuit, but now there is the question online and maybe even in the jurors of, after seeing Cassie's lawsuit, after all the mentions of the freak-offs, why did she go back? I guess that's up for the jury to decide if there's a valid reason. So during that time, that when you guys got back together from February of 2024 until September, you were able to reconnect in a way that was meaningful to you? I felt that I could assert myself a little bit more, yes. And do you remember telling the government you were finally getting the princess treatment that you wanted? Yes. They reconnect February of 2024. May of 2024, CNN releases the Intercontinental Hotel assault footage. May 2024, Jane is staying with Combs in his Miami mansion. They're both in Sean's bed and they get a knock on the door from the sons. Jane says, I just remember sleeping and one of his sons knocked on the door and that said that something just happened. And then I was just by myself. I went downstairs and I could see that everybody was speaking amongst each other. I sat down, I went on my phone, and then I saw the video. Jane puts a tissue up to her face to wipe away her tears. I saw Sean assaulting Cassie in a hotel lobby. I was physically just at the table. I was about to eat breakfast. I lost my appetite. Comey asked Jane, what do you remember happening the day that you saw that video of Sean assaulting Cassie? I just remember it was just a very eerie day. I just remember that Sean was huddled with his team and his family just away. And I was primarily just alone during that day, and I was just giving everybody space. Jane says that she was by herself for most of the day until maybe that evening, perhaps. She says, I remember kind of like inviting me to this little huddle later on in the evening in the backyard. Who's in the huddle? Just his sons, his writer, and some friends. They're all standing there in this huddle trying to come up with what we now know as his god-awful apology video.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was f***ed up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I made no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
It took multiple people to come up with that one.
Wait. So that apology video, who was on there one more time? Him, his sons?
And a writer.
That's it.
Yeah.
Huh, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know where his PR rep was. Yeah. Jane says the next day, and like, by the way, he has PR reps that have come up, right? I'm not saying that a PR rep should be used in an apology video, but like he has them. So this would be the time, I would imagine, because it was a bad apology video. Jane says, the next day I remember he showed me kind of like the final draft of what he would say that day publicly. She says that she briefly read through the draft and she thought it was nice, like it felt heartfelt. She said specifically Combs had named Cassie in the apology and it felt very genuine. But apparently, that's not the final one that he posted, because she would previously tell the government that she was disappointed by his final apology that was ultimately posted because it didn't feel genuine, it didn't name Cassie, it was not the one that she read. Now, this is where things get suspicious, okay? Around the time of this conversation that Prosecutor Comey is having with Jane, Mark Agnifilo wants a sidebar. And he's telling the judge, I think we're headed into privileged territory. So privileged territory is any conversation between a client and their attorney. So even if you are subpoenaed to the stand, the prosecutor, the defense, they can't say, what were you talking to your attorney about? That's privileged. You cannot ask. He said this is privileged. So how much information exactly is Jane privy to? He says it's privileged because he was the one that told Sean Combs he cannot put Cassie's name in the apology. Because you have a potential grand jury witness. Yeah. You cannot name her in this video. So he took out Cassie's name.
But he told it to Jane.
It seems like it. And that leaves a huge door to everyone of how much information was Jane actually privy to that she cannot talk about on the stand because it's privileged information. Like, how much is she withholding because of that?
Okay, what does that even mean?
Exactly. We don't know how much more information that she cannot talk about, what experiences she cannot share. Like, we don't know. It's just weird. I think this just adds to the weirdness of the fact that Sean Combs is paying for her attorney. She's met with his attorneys up until April. Like, I'm sure lots of privileged conversations have been taking place.
Yeah. So when Mark brought that up to the judge, right?
Yes.
What did they come out of it? Do they continue this conversation? Did they stop it?
The judge was like, good point. Comey was like, I wasn't even really aware, but like, I'm not going to ask further questions about it anyway. So I'm just going to move on to the next topic. So then they just kind of breezed past it. But everyone who read that sidebar, like even the next day, the press pews are like, because that's weird.
Yeah.
It's just opening this big door of like, what else? We don't know. We'll never know. As for why she stayed with Combs, Jane explains to the jurors that Combs convinced her that Cassie was the one that was violent after this hotel footage. He called her a, quote, hitter, and that this